Morning, it's Walter. Let me ask you something. You ever watch somebody, 60-some years old, maybe 70, show up somewhere with a brand new ring on their finger, all lit up about it, and you look at them and you think, I hope it works out. And then 2 seconds later you think, but it probably won't. That's not meanness. That's just experience talking. I'm 78 years old. I've been living here at Cedarbrook, room 14, right by the window, going on 3 years now. You can see the parking lot from here, but if you look past it a little, there's some trees. It's enough. And in a place like this, you see things. You see a lot. People who lost husbands, people who lost wives, people who've been alone 5 years, 10 years, people who went and got married again, people who are thinking about it real hard right now. I lost my wife, Dot, in 2021. We had 49 years together. Pancreatic cancer, fast, the way that one goes. 1 month she's right there and then she's not. And you're standing in the kitchen at 6 in the morning looking at 1 coffee mug instead of 2, and you can't quite explain to anybody what that feels like. I understand the pull. I do. After she passed, I spent about 6 months alone in the house before my son Richard talked me into coming here. I resisted. Then I didn't. I still carry that a little, the giving in, but that's a different story. What I want to talk about today is this: getting married again after 65, and specifically 7 things I've learned, some from watching other people make this move, some from almost making it myself, that I wish somebody had sat me down and said out loud when I needed to hear it. I'm not here to tell you what to do, that's not my job. You're a grown person and you've been making your own decisions a lot longer than I've been sitting in this chair. But I've seen enough to know that this particular decision, at this particular age, deserves a real hard look before you take it. So, 7 things. First one, and this is the one that sounds obvious, but nobody actually thinks all the way through. After 65, you are not just marrying a person. You are merging 2 entire lifetimes. When you're young and you get married, you're starting from close to nothing. Maybe you've got a little debt, a beat-up car, some furniture that needs replacing. You're building something together from scratch. That's hard, but it's a particular kind of hard, the kind where you're going in the same direction. When you get married at 68 or 72, you're not starting from nothing, not even close. You've got a house that used to belong to someone you loved. You've got kids who are adults now and have opinions. You've got grandkids. You've got health insurance, a will, a financial situation that took you 40 years to figure out. You've got habits, real deep ones, the kind that are in your bones by now. The way you like the thermostat, the way you sleep, the things that bother you that never used to. And the person you're marrying has all of that too, every bit of it. So you're not just 2 people deciding to be together. You're 2 full, complicated, lived-in lives trying to fit into the same space. And that's a different thing entirely from what most people think they're signing up for. There was a man here, Bill, good man, got married at 68 to a woman he'd met maybe a year before, both of them widowed. Both of them lonely, both of them sure it was the right thing. Within 18 months, his kids and her kids were in open conflict. Her kids thought he was after the inheritance. His kids felt pushed out. What started as 2 people wanting some company in their later years turned into a family situation that nobody had the energy to manage. Bill used to sit in the common room looking like a man who couldn't believe what his life had become. I'm not saying that's how it goes every time. I'm saying it happens a lot more than people expect, because they only thought about the 2 of them. They forgot about the inventory. Second thing, and this one's going to sting a little, so I want you to stay with me. A lot of the time, not all of the time, but a lot of it, what feels like falling in love again is actually just relief. There is a difference between those 2 things. A real significant difference. And when you are in your late 60s and you've lost someone and the house is quiet in a way it was never quiet before, it is very, very easy to confuse the 2. Loneliness at this age is physical. It's not just emotional. It's in your body. You wake up and the other side of the bed is cold, and your whole system, I don't know how else to say it, your whole system is oriented toward another person being there. And when they're not, something just aches all the time, low and steady, just aches. And into that ache walks somebody kind, somebody who laughs at the same things you do, somebody who calls when they say they're going to call. And suddenly the ache is smaller, and you think, this must be it. I almost did this. About a year and a half after Dot passed, there was a woman at my church, a widow, good person, treated me right. I started spending time with her, and I started thinking, well, maybe this is what's supposed to come next. And then one evening, I was sitting in this chair, right here, and I asked myself out loud, I actually said it out loud, which felt a little strange, Walter, do you want her? Or do you just not want to be alone anymore? I sat with that for a few minutes, and I knew. It was the quiet I couldn't stand. It was the empty house. It was the coffee mug. She was a good woman, and I liked her fine, but what I was actually reaching for was the feeling of not being alone. And she just happened to be the one nearby. That's not fair to anybody. Not to her, not to me. If you're sitting here thinking about somebody right now, I want you to ask yourself that question. Not fast, slow. Be honest about it. Because if the answer is, I just can't stand the silence anymore, that's a real answer, but it's not a reason to get married. Third, money. I know. Nobody wants to talk about money when they're talking about love. It feels wrong. It feels small. But you're not 22 anymore. You're not starting from nothing. You have assets. You have savings. You have property maybe. You have a will you wrote with your first spouse in mind. You have things you told your kids they'd inherit someday. All of that, every bit of it, gets complicated the moment you sign a marriage certificate. Community property laws vary by state. Inheritance gets tangled. If one of you has significantly more than the other, that creates its own friction. Sometimes right away, sometimes later, but usually eventually. And here's the thing that people don't want to say. Second marriages end in divorce at a higher rate than first marriages. That's not an opinion. That's just the number. Something like 60-65%. Could look that up if you want. So if things don't work out, and the odds say there's a real chance they won't, you could be looking at a divorce proceeding in your 70s, which means lawyers, which means splitting what you spent a lifetime building, which means your kids fighting over things that should have been simple. I knew a man in Dayton, worked in the same plant I did for years. Good man, retired a little before me, got married at 71. Thought he'd found something real. 2 years later, it was over. He lost the house he'd lived in for 30-some years. Not because she took it from him out of spite, just because that's how the math worked out when everything got divided. He died in a rented apartment. I'm not trying to scare you, I'm trying to tell you what I've seen. Get a lawyer. Get a prenup. Have the hard conversation before you're sitting in front of a judge, having it under worse circumstances. Fourth thing, health. You are older. Your body is different than it was. That's not a criticism. It's just true. Mine sure isn't what it was. And here is the question that almost nobody asks before they get married later in life. What happens if one of us gets really sick? I mean really sick. Not a bad cold. I mean a stroke. I mean Parkinson's. I mean Alzheimer's starting to show up at the edges of things. I mean the kind of sick where somebody needs real care every day, and it falls to the person they married. When you've been married to someone for 40 years and they get sick, you have 40 years holding you there. You have a shared history so deep that even the hard parts feel like something you owe. You have kids who grew up watching you love each other. You have reasons. When you've been married to someone for 3 years and they get sick, I mean really, seriously sick, it's a different situation. You care about them. Of course you do. But you're also now a full-time caregiver for someone you barely know, when you yourself might not be in the best shape to be doing it. There's a woman here, Helen, married again at 69. Sweet woman. Her husband developed Parkinson's about 3 years in. She spent the last 6 or 7 years of her life being his primary caregiver. She never complained about it. Not once, not in front of me. But she said something to me once, real quiet, standing near the window down the hall. She said, "Walter, I didn't know what I was walking into." That's not a warning against love. That's just a warning to go in with your eyes open. Fifth, your kids. I don't care how old they are. I don't care if they say they support you. I don't care if they've been nothing but kind to your new person. Your kids are going to have feelings about this, and those feelings are going to live inside whatever family life you have left, because they're still grieving too most of the time. They lost their parent, the one who was your spouse, and now there's a stranger at the holidays. A stranger in the house they grew up in, maybe. A stranger who's going to be in the will, whether you mean it that way or not. Some kids handle it well. I've seen that. But I've also seen it go the other way. Slow, quiet friction that never quite becomes a fight but never quite goes away either. The stiff conversation at Thanksgiving. The grandkids who seem uncertain about who this new person is. The son or daughter who's perfectly polite but never fully warm. And that stuff wears on you, especially at this age. You don't have the energy for conflict the way you did at 40. You just don't. My son Richard never said a word to me about the woman from church. Not one word. But I saw him one afternoon. I'd mentioned her in passing, and I saw something shift in his face. Just for a second. He covered it fast, but I saw it. He never had to say anything. I already knew. I'm not saying let your kids make the decision for you. They shouldn't. But I am saying factor them in. Really factor them in. Because whatever you decide, you're going to be living with their reaction for as long as you've got. Sixth thing, and I think this might be the most important one on this whole list. You have changed more than you know. And you don't fully know it yet. When you lose a spouse after decades together, you go through something that reshapes you. Not dramatically, not all at once, but it does. Who you are on the other side of that loss is a different person than who you were before. And most people who decide to remarry do it too soon. 1 year, 2 years out. And they think they've processed enough. They think the worst is behind them. They know who they are now. They're ready. But they're not. Not usually. Because the person you become after grief, the real settled version of yourself on the other side, takes time to show up. 3 years sometimes, 5 years, sometimes longer. If you get married before that happens, you're making one of the biggest commitments of your life as a version of yourself that you haven't fully met yet. I'm a different person than I was when Dot died. I know that for a fact. Quieter in some ways, more stubborn in others. Things that never bothered me before bother me now. Things I used to need, I don't need anymore. If I had gotten married 18 months after she passed, and I was thinking about it, I really was, I would have brought this half-formed, still-in-progress version of myself into somebody else's life. That's not fair, to her or to me. Give yourself time. Not because the grief has to be completely gone, it won't be, but because you need to know who you are right now in this chapter before you decide who you want to spend it with. Seventh, the last one. You do not need a marriage certificate to not be alone. I know that sounds like giving up. I know it sounds like I'm telling you to just accept loneliness and make your peace with it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that marriage is one option. It's not the only option, and at this age it comes with a particular set of complications, the ones we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes, that other kinds of connection don't. There are people here at Cedarbrook who have real companionship. They eat dinner together every night. They sit together in the afternoons. They look after each other when one of them has a rough week. They matter to each other in real and daily ways. And they didn't sign anything. I'm not saying that's better for everybody. Maybe it isn't for you. But I am saying, before you decide that marriage is the answer to the loneliness, make sure you've looked at what else is possible. Because sometimes the rush to get remarried is really just a rush to make the pain stop. And there are slower, quieter, less complicated ways to make the pain a little smaller. All right, look, I'm not sitting here telling you not to do it. That would be too easy and it wouldn't be honest, because sometimes it works. Sometimes two people find each other later in life and they go in clear-eyed. They've got the legal stuff sorted, they've talked to their kids, they've given it enough time, they know who they are, and it's good, real good. But that's not usually how it goes. Usually it goes fast. Usually it goes because the loneliness got loud enough that it drowned out the questions that needed asking. And those questions don't go away just because you stopped asking them. They just show up later in harder circumstances. So, if you're thinking about this, if somebody came to mind while I was talking, or if you've been sitting on this decision for a while, I just want you to slow down a little. Not stop, just slow down. Take the time, ask the hard questions, talk to your kids, even if it's uncomfortable. Talk to a lawyer, even if it feels unromantic. And ask yourself, really ask yourself, whether you're doing this because it's right, or because the quiet in the house got to be too much. Both of those are understandable, but only one of them is a reason to get married. There's a man in room 16, told me last week he's been seeing someone. He seemed happy, genuinely happy. I told him that's good to hear, and I meant it. I just hope he's thinking about some of what I talked about here. Anyway, that's all I've got. Take care of yourself. We'll catch you next time.